Hello and welcome to Command Modern Operations. This is, if you don't know, this is a operational to strategic level war game focusing on naval and air combat, and it's an awesome game where you can basically set up any combat scenario you can think of between, I think, 1948 to up to present time, and I think a couple of years into the future as well. So I'm not going to talk too much about it because it's going to take me an hour. We are just going to jump in a scenario. We're going to play Operation Brass Drum. You can read this, pause and read if you want. It's too much for me to read out loud. So I played this scenario a couple of times, but I haven't actually completed it. So I'm gonna give it another shot. So as you can see, the difficulty and the complexity is quite high. So yeah, it's gonna be fun. So let's get into it. We have the side briefing for the for United States, which is the only side you can play in this scenario. So the situation is the Iranian military is enforcing a blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. A handful of tankers transiting the strait have been attacked by air-launched anti-ship missiles, mines and torpedoes. Large commercial traffic has all but ceased, though small coastal vessels are still out in number. Our Mideast friends, or allies, are shying away from confronting Iran in this instance. Recent Iranian expansion in ballistic missile capabilities have them concerned. While we retain some overflight rights, basing in countries like Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and even Turkey is not forthcoming. So no air bases in those countries, but we do have overflight rights, which means that we're not bound by any borders, basically. So quick look at the enemy forces, which is part of, well, the enemy is Iran. So we can see they have some improved military capabilities, through Russian and Chinese assistance. So there's a couple of things to take note of here, specifically the SA-10 and SA-20 surface-to-air missile launchers, which are very capable SAMs. They also have shorter range systems like the SA-11, SA-13, SA-15, and a bunch of older Chinese HY2s, which are basically a copy of the SA-2, and some SA-6, and a whole slew of manpads and anti-aircraft artillery. So they have some air bases in the area, which are housing some newer MiG-29s, some Chinese J-7 fighters, and also a newly operational unit of Chinese-made J-10 fighters. So that's something to take note of. Quite capable fighters. There's also some remaining F-14s and some older MiG-29s, as well as F-4 Phantoms and Su-24s, which the two latter are capable of launching anti-ship missiles, which is why we have to keep our eye out for any Su-24s and F-4 Phantoms. Iranian naval assets include several Kilo-class conventional submarines, that is to say, diesel-electric submarines. The Kilo-class is a quite modern and stealthy Russian submarine. They also have some Chinese Hubei-class missile boats, carrying anti-ship missiles, so that is a priority target. There's some older Chinese supplied PCMs. I believe those are patrol craft missiles, maybe. I don't know the correct designation, but I guess we could take a look at that once we get into the scenario. The Navy also operates several batteries of land-based mobile anti-ship missile batteries, which are thought to be covering the strait itself. Of particular concern is the deployment of naval mines in the strait itself. Intelligence indicates that the approaches to Bandar Abbas, which is houses an airfield, and there's also a naval air station. The approaches to Bandar Abbas are heavily mined, while mines in the strait's transit lanes appear to be only less concentrated. Alright, so we do have a summary of the Iranian forces. We have some, that's the Hudong type 021. Was that the one that was oh, there it is, the Hubei. And they also have some Torag, which are Boghammer mods. These are basically small speedboats, which they can use in swarm attacks. And we went through the aircraft, but there are a couple of additions here. They have some Boeing 707 tankers. They also have IL-38 Maze, which are, I should say, Soviet-Russian maritime patrol aircraft and anti-submarine aircraft. They also have some naval helicopters and some P-3F Orions, which is an American-made maritime patrol aircraft, so have to be mindful of that. And submarines, we have the Kilo class, and there's a bunch of surface-to-air missile batteries and radars. So friendly forces, due to other current operations, it will be at least 48 hours before additional forces can be expected to arrive. This is the combat operational debut of the F-35B. It would be very unfortunate to lose any of these aircraft to hostile action, but their capabilities should prove useful. TLMs, or land attack missiles, Tomahawks, are available, though a number of these that's weird. Though a number of those onboard ships have been sequestered for later use. So we can't use all of them, but there are plenty, believe me. So our forces consists of, well, mainly three surface action groups, I guess you can say, or call it. We have the Bush Carrier Strike Group, made up of the sea or carrier, nuclear carrier, aircraft carrier 77 George Bush, which is a Nimitz class. We also have a guided missile cruiser, which is the Ticonderoga, with the VLS, which is the vertical launch system. There's also two guided missile destroyers protecting the George Bush, both of which are Arleigh Burke class. And there's a supply ship. And then we have America, which is the Amphibious Ready Group, which consists of a smaller carrier, and to the LSD and the LPD. I think one of these are these landing ships. Okay, I'll look at that when we get into the mission. We also have another Arleigh Burke protecting the Amphibious Ready Group, and most importantly, we have the Zumwalt Surface Action Group, consisting of a guided missile destroyer 1000, which is the Zumwalt, which is kind of a stealth type ship. You'll see what I mean when I show you in game. Also have a guided missile destroyer, another Arleigh Burke, and some LCSs, LCS Freedom and Independence. And Air Forces, we do have a bunch, a lot of helicopters. We have some Hornet EA-18G Growlers, which are anti-radar SEAD aircraft. We also have a couple of E-2 Hawkeyes for AWACS, and a bunch of Super Hornets, 1-seaters, 2-seaters, some standard F-18C Hornets. You can see there are different squadrons, and some C-2 Greyhounds, which are basically smaller cargo aircraft that you use between carriers. A bunch of more helicopters on the supply ship and the cruisers, or the cruiser and the guided missile destroyers. And here we have the LHA, which actually has some Super Cobra attack helicopters, and it also has the 6 F-35B Lightnings and a bunch of Ospreys. What else? We have Super Stallions, Seahawks. We also have some MQ-8B Fire Scout UAVs, which basically look like small helicopters. And then we do have the airbase at Diego Garcia available, and we have some KC-135 Stratotankers, also a couple of P-8 Poseidon Marine Patrol or Maritime Patrol aircraft, and some MQ-4C Tritons UAV with the Global Hawk mod. So these are long-range UAVs that will be important for the mission. We also have some aircraft at the airbase in Djibouti, which is in East Africa. I can't remember if it's Eritrea or Ethiopia. One of them, I believe, which is housing some KC-130s, Hercules. So these are shorter range tankers. And there's also 4 MQ-4C Tritons as well. And last but not least, we have the nuclear attack submarine 775 Texas, which is a Virginia class attack submarine, very, very capable. So the mission is quite simple: break the Iranian blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. The mission description is simple. The mission itself isn't all that easy. So execution: Zumwalt or Surface Action Group Zumwalt is to transit the Straits of Hormuz and arrive in the area designated objective within 24 hours. So basically what the US is doing is we're doing a freedom of navigation operation through the Strait of Hormuz, which means that, you know, Iran is taking control, or has taken control, over international waters. So we are free to move through that, but yeah, we'll see what happens. 2. Amphibious Radio Group America and Carrier Battle Group Ford are to assist with this is strangely worded, to assist with rapidly attrition, I can't pronounce that, attriting, whatever, Iranian military capabilities in the Gulf of Oman and Strait of Hormuz areas, in particular neutralizing airfields, naval units, land-based anti-ship missile batteries and other high-order threats. Striking the southern region Air Defense HQ northwest of Jask, striking the Naval Operations HQ near Bandar Abbas, and reduced the Iranian integrated air defense system in the region, in particular the SA-20, SA-10 surface-to-air missile sites, and any long-range early warning radar sites, and fighter aircraft, which there is a bunch of fighter aircrafts. Then we are to clear naval mines sufficient to allow and form basis for a re-establishing safe navigation of the Strait of Hormuz. And we also have some information regarding our pilots. The political consequences of US pilots falling into the hands of the Iranian military would be far-reaching and detrimental to the success of the overall operation. Therefore, retrieval of downed pilots is a high priority. So, yeah. That's a lot. It's a lot to go through, but we are about ready to jump into the scenario. So let's enter. And here we have some scenario features and realism options. These are set by the scenario creators, so I can't do anything about them. There's no effect of terrain types, which is something that I would like to have. Night and weather affects air sorties, another thing I would like to have, and realistic submarine communications as well. But alas. So, here we are. And here, let's see if the satellite imagery can catch up. We might do this. Here we go. So, here's the Straits of Hormuz. And here are some known Iranian air bases and weapons. See, we have some SA-2s on this island. That's the Naval Operations Command, which we need to bomb. We also have an air base, Bandar Abbas, Tactical Air Base 9. And that's the Naval Air Station. And we have some targets closer to our forces. We have the Air Defense HQ, which we also need to deal with. Another airfield, and there should be... I can't see it yet, but you'll see once we start the scenario proper. These are our forces. This is the Texas, which is a very capable submarine. I can show you the database, which is quite extensive. There's some nice pictures. So if you go down, you can see the general description. Then we have some general data, like how big it is, the displacement, max depth, yada yada yada. And then we get down into the sensor and electronic warfare section, and as you can see, there's a lot of information. So we have the radars, signal intelligence, which is basically a sensor that detects electronic emissions. We have the whole sonars, and we have this is the towed sonar array. There's a bunch of different things, and there's some information what they can do, basically. And here we get down into the mount, stores, and weapons. So this we can see we have 4 torpedo tubes, which can carry some, or launch rather, tomahawks, different tomahawks, and also of course the Mark 48 torpedo, the ADCAP. We have the VLS system, the vertical launch system for the tomahawks, and some magazines and comms and data links. You can see there's a lot of things. Signatures. This is basically how detectable this specific submarine is to different sensors, like passive sonar, very low frequency up to high frequency. active sonar, visual detection, infrared, radar, and some properties, and propulsion, one nuclear reactor, max speed 32 knots, and different different speeds at different throttle settings, whatever. So you can see there's a lot of information, and you can also let's take a look at the torpedo tubes. We have the Mark 48 ad cap, so we can just press that, and then we'll see the game statistics of the ad cap. So let's see quite a few different things. The guidance type, range anti-surface, range anti-sub or submerged, kinematic range 27 nautical miles at 50 knots, blah blah blah. A surface reliability and percentage, I don't know, POH, basically the accuracy, how accurate the weapon is. So that's the database. I'm going to go through our forces and then I'll probably end the video. So we have the Texas. Here we have the Surface Action Group Zumwalt, which consists of, we can see the group here. We have the, this is the Zumwalt, which is this kind of stealth destroyer. So pretty cool. So we have the Zumwalt, and we have some guided missile destroyers, or one, the Farragut, an Orly Burke class. So that's that group. We also have the LCS, Littoral Combat Ship. Okay, so that's what LCS is. Okay, so these are quite new, modern ships. Yeah, almost looks like a catamaran. So pretty cool. So that's the Zumwalt group, that is Surface Action Group. This group is the one that's supposed to make their way through the Straits of Hormuz. Back here we have the Bush Carrier Strike Group. Here we have the Nimitz class, George Bush, and we can take a look. I guess we already kind of looked at what aircraft we have, but we can see if we go into air ops or operations, we can see the different flights we have. These are the FA-18Fs, two-seater FA-18s. You can see these, they are, their loadout is anti-air, which is good. You can also change loadouts if you want, but that takes time. It can take a couple of hours or 40 minutes for aircraft. And we have some FA-18Cs armed with AGM 154 JSOWs, which are standoff glide bombs, basically. The BLU-97B, it is definitely a here's the JSOW, dual purpose. This is cluster munition. Let's see, it says dual purpose. Well, it's only to be used against land soft targets, I should say. Okay. JSOWs, what else? We have the one-seater Super Hornets armed with GBU-32 JDAMs. We also have a couple with the JBU-24. What else? Here we go. We have 4 armed with the AGM-84K Slammer, which is the what is it, surface launch? No. Well, basically it's a harpoon. And we got the AGM-88E armed on the it should be the FA, well, the Growlers. Yeah, they're part of the same group apparently. Okay. And some helicopters and the E2 Hawkeyes. Here are the Growlers. Huh. So that's interesting. I didn't actually know there were 2 groups. I knew about the Growlers, or Growlers, but not about this one. So they have AGM-88Es and JSOWs. Okay. Interesting. That's the George Bush. We also have the guided missile cruiser, and some Arleigh Burkes, and this is the supply ship. And lastly, this is the last of the surface groups. This is the Amphibious ready group with the Amphibious assault ship, the America, which carries the helicopters and the F-35s. Yep, so we have quite a few Ospreys loaded with Marines, so they'll be ready in 2 hours. Here are the helicopters. Here are the Lightnings, F-35s, armed with GBU-32s. GBU-32 JDAM, I believe that's the... Is that the smaller ones? Mark 83. No, the Mark 83, those are 1,000 pounds, aren't they? Let's take a look. Here we go. Yeah, 1,000 pound. Okay, so these are not the small ones. The Mark 82s are the 500 pounds, but I thought there is a smaller. Oh, I think I'm thinking about the small diameter bomb. Oops. Oh, it's a GBU-39. Yeah, or the GBU-53, which is the small diameter bomb. Well, there's that. Okay, that's the naval assets we have. We also have a MQ-4C Triton, big old UAV. It does not have any weapons, but it does have some important sensors, specifically the E-Lint, which picks up any electronic emissions, so radar, specifically radar. I don't know if it picks up communications. Yeah, but this is gonna be important because we want to have a good fix on enemy radars and be able to spot any incoming threats like fighter aircraft using the radars. You can see it even models cockpit visibility. Of course, this is a UAV, so there's no real cockpit, but it models that on every aircraft. What am I looking for? Well, I'm looking for the altitude. So we can we go to 60,000 feet? That's okay, I guess. You can also see the fuel consumption, which is also modeled in the game, and the quantity of fuel. So that's the UAV, one of them. So we do have a base in Djibouti. It's actually Djibouti, its own country. Oh damn. Okay, there we go. This is a single unit airfield. It's got a runway up to, well, it's about 3.2 kilometer long runway. And here we had the tankers, the AC-130 tankers. Yes, I thought it said we also had some UAVs, but I think I know why, because if we take a look at this UAV, we can see that its assigned base is Djibouti Air Base, so this is a home port for the UAV, so I think that's why. And all the way down into the maybe not that far down. My geography skills or knowledge. Here we go. This is Diego Garcia Air Force Base. This is where we have our KC-135 tankers, the Poseidons, and a couple of more of these Triton UAVs. As you can see, some of these are ready, while others are not loaded and ready until, well, 3-4 hours. It depends on the loadout and the aircraft. Well, that is it for the forces we have to play around with. So this is a bunch of, oh yeah, these are all the aircraft buildings. So basically this, I can show you, you can go to group view, and we only have one, you can only see a single unit basically, but if you go out of group view, if I can, oh there we go, you can see we have some runway access points, runways, tarmacs, we also have taxiways, so you can pick and choose if you only want to bomb like the taxiways, for example, but we'll keep it in group view for now. So yeah, I think that's an overview of all the forces and some of the enemy forces, but you'll see later when we start this scenario a lot of things is going to happen. So I will end the video here, and in the next one we'll start the scenario and see what happens. So see you in the next one.